In first session of the great, the recording's in progress. Aren't we happy about that? Welcome. We're so glad to have you here with us. Thank you for joining us today. Today's this session is going to be on finances. This is our finance session, and I guess it could look like wow, money. That was so random. Where did that come from? But I'd like to take you to a scripture in Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. You don't have to go back and read it. It says, this is in the TPT version. It says, how could you worship two gods at the same time? You will have to hate one and love the other, or be devoted to one and despise the other. You can't worship the true God while enslaved to the God of money. And in the NLT version, it says it in this way. No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. So we see that you can't behold God while simultaneously beholding money or mammon, as it's put in another scripture. I think it's the King James version. But our gaze must be fixed only on God. So we're going to do a financial workshop today, and by the grace of God, any enslavement to money will be broken in Jesus' name. Amen. And we'll be able to behold only the King of Kings, God Almighty. Because yesterday, I believe it was, there are things we saw during Bible study in the morning. In your groups, I believe you should have, or maybe you didn't, but we spoke about things that can distract us from beholding God. And sometimes it can be our self or our earthly desires. And this morning, Apostle TJ, he spoke about desires. So we want our desires to be right. We want to desire the right thing. Money is not evil, but the love of money is the root of all evil. And we can't behold both money and God. We can only behold God. We should only behold God. We should only want to behold God. So if you were with us this morning, you saw that we had a wonderful session with Apostle TJ from Network Edification and Gov Church. And next, on the 21st of August, they have a conference coming up, and we're going to show you a short clip. Please feel free to register to the conference if you'd like to attend.
But how do we define kingdom-focused leadership?
I think I would say from, I guess, my own processes and what I've experienced up until this point, not that I've experienced a massive amount in the short time that I've been, I guess, in a leadership role. Something that I've come to learn is that leadership is more so about service and serving others than it is about anything else. Yeah. As far as my perspective of leadership, again, as I say, because of the processes that I've had to go through, it's shifted my perspective of it completely. I think that sometimes as a leader, God would have you serve in some obscure places, and sometimes it doesn't always make sense as to why you find yourself in those places. But I think even in your faithfulness and in your commitment to serving in those places, I believe that God honors that. And I think it's necessary, those processes, because ultimately, even when I don't think you ever arrive necessarily, but when you're sort of in the, for want of a better word, in the thick of walking in your purpose, you will still be serving. I think leadership from a kingdom perspective is always, I like to think of it as, God, I serve you by serving your people, almost. I think that leadership is not about me dominating the people that I serve. I think that there is something about being able to influence the people that I serve, but it's not through me kind of forcefully making people do. I think that by my example of service, it should inspire those that follow after me to want to serve also.
Yeah.
You can register to hold leaders by clicking the link that is in the chat right now. And then there you can register for free. It is a free event. It's just not a free event. It's not a free event. Good thing we're learning about money today, yeah? It's not a free event. Just be careful, okay? But you can register there. Register, please register. I apologize for that. Apologies. You can register there. Yes, and it is on the 21st of August. 21st of August. It's nice to see everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi. Hi, Alex. Hi, Carl. Hi, Vanessa. Hi, Revwanu. Hi, Nancy. Hi, Alarika. Hi, okay, there's a lot of us. Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry if I didn't get through to your name just because of time. I'm going to be quick. But yeah, so today we're going to go into our workshop on finances. Again, I strongly encourage you to have a pen and paper, or if you prefer electronic devices, just make sure you're taking notes, because like you said, I'm not going to remember this. Writing down is a good way to remember notes. It's a good way to remember information you're given. You assimilate it better. So have your pens and papers ready. If you want to, open your bank account and look at your finances and pray over it. You're going to learn. It's going to be a different story at the end of this. Don't worry about it. Okay. We give thanks to God for where we're at and where we're going to. I'm going to welcome on our speaker, one of our main speakers of this session, and her name is called Vanessa Iremiren, and she is of Exousia Wealth. She's a wealth manager, and she's pretty impressive with money. Yeah. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Timmy. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Nice to see you.
You're doing a great job hosting. You're doing a great job hosting.
Oh, thank you. I didn't even hear you. Thank you so much. Oh, these bloopers. Wonderful. I'm going to leave the floor to you where you can take over. I'm really looking forward to this talk. Everybody get ready with your pens and papers or your electronic devices. Round of applause for Vanessa, please. Get some encouragement on. You can put it all up in the comments. Let's make her blush. Tap, 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 tap.
Oh, God. Thank you, Timmy. Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're having a good day. I know some of you guys are still back at work. Wow, this spotlight really gets all up in your face. I don't know how I feel about it. But okay, it's fine. Let's keep going. But hi, everyone. It's nice to see you all. I mean, I can't see your videos, but I know you're here and you're present. If you guys working, keep this in the background. I know you're going to learn something today. So we've got a packed agenda. It's not just me that you guys need to be introduced to. I also want to introduce my good friend Carl West, who is going to also be teaching and sharing some wisdom with us today on mortgages. So we've got a very packed agenda. I'm going to be talking on the difference between saving and investing. So we're going to talk all things that. And Carl, who's also joined by his brother Alex and father Trevor West, they make up a business called Westways Financial, and they deal with all things mortgages, as well as family planning, such as insurance and wills. They're going to go into great detail, but Carl's going to do a great job of talking to us about the end-to-end process of mortgages. So when you want to buy a house, like what are the steps that go into it? It's not just as easy as going on Rightmove and saying, I want that house. There are loads of crooks and crannies involved, and Carl is best placed to talk to us about that. So let's get into things. I'm going to pray for us because, Contend has been going on for many years, and it is always life-changing. And it's a privilege to be a part of this vision. So this year's theme is rediscovering the King, behold the King. And Tumi did a great job. She mentioned a scripture which talks about how we can't serve God and money. The beautiful thing is that God, being the creator of all, money comes from him. He is the God of silver and gold. The only issue with money when it comes to humans is our desire to have it more than him. So I'm going to pray for you, praying that in this session and throughout this week, that the God of wisdom will arise in your finances, that the God of creativity will arise in your businesses, in your careers, that you will lay hold of all of the plans, the dreams, and the visions that you desire to see to come to pass. And it is God, the God of silver and gold, that will bring that to pass. And He gives us the ability to get wealth. And so I pray that He graces you with wisdom, that you are well equipped in this session to learn, but also to go and seek for more understanding, more knowledge, more, and before you act. Education is so important, and I pray that He will posture us all so that we access levels of wealth to a generational level. It's not just going to be our families, it's the people that come after us that will experience the breakthrough in wealth because of what we've been doing in this week, in the name of Jesus. So I pray that your eyes and your hearts are open to receive today, in Jesus' name. And we said, amen. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen because I have a presentation that I am going to share with you. Please do let me know in the chat if you can see it clearly. Let me know if you can see the chocolate coins. Yes, we can. Thank you. Thank you, husband. All right, if you see Samuel Iremiren in the comments flirting with me, it's because he's my husband. So just to let you know that in advance. Okay, so I thought let's go straight into it then, shall we? All right, so that's me, really scary photo, but needed it for LinkedIn. So just a little bit of background about me. I am a client advisor at UBS. So for those that don't know UBS, I've had people think it's called a USB that goes into a computer. No, it's not. UBS is a Swiss private bank and it's an investment manager. They do great things. They look after a lot of rich people's money. So that's quite a good job, we thank God. But also on the side, God has given me the grace to start a company called Exousia Wealth. Which means the power, Exousia meaning the power to get. And so Exousia Wealth is a financial education company or platform. So yeah, that's been running for about a year and a bit now, so we thank God. I'm 28 years old. I've worked in finance for 8 years, since 2013. Happily married as well, and thank God. And I'm also an evangelist and a worship leader, and my home church is Salem International Christian Center. So if you want any my socials, those are them at the bottom. Great. So for those who weren't here already, I've already introduced my collaborator today, who's Carl West from Westways Financials. So he's going to be speaking to us later on mortgages. So we're going to do several spotlights throughout the agenda today. So don't mind me if I'm rushing through. There is definitely a lot to get through. But yeah, I thought I'd kick off with talking about, what happened last year. I mean, last year was a very crazy and challenging year for everybody. And it definitely had a lot of impacts that we probably won't know, for the next, year or so. That's how things work with the economy. But I thought we could just run through some key highlights and maybe look at some potential opportunities for us as a community, as a people. And Carl, I'm definitely going to ask for you to jump in on that as well, especially on the mortgages and housing front as well, because there are definitely opportunities now. And then we're going to look at, if for anyone who knows that I have spoken countless times with the Luther, thank you again for that opportunity. We're going to just kind of look through some key things that you guys can do to check in on your health, make sure it's up to date. Ever since, we've loosened lockdown measures, a lot of you have been really A-ing and enjoying themselves, and the money that you've saved is gone now. So, let's do a check, please, to make sure that we're getting back on track. And then we're going to look at some ISAs, so saving and looking into some investments. And then I'm going to hand over to Carl, who's going to take us through the process of mortgages, and then some Q&A later on. So if you want to put on your video and let me see your beautiful faces, that would be nice. And feel free to interact on the comments. I probably won't be looking at them as much, we'll be using, but please do put your questions so that we can ask them later. Cool, so let's fly. So highlights of 2020 into 2021. So, I mean, other than the fact that COVID-19 really hit us hard, there's a lot of things that took place over the past 12 to 18 months. I mean, lives were lost, families, really struggled. Some people, got married, people gave birth. There's been a lot of highs and lows. But from an economic point of view, and how does it affect our pockets? I thought I'd pick out a few key things that we could talk about. And feel free to jump in on the chat. I mean, how did COVID-19 affect you financially in your pockets? It had different effects for other people. For me, it was a mixture. I liked the fact that I didn't have to spend £300 on travel every month, and I could put that towards my savings, and I thought that was fantastic, and I never want to go back to work again. But that's me. I like that money, so that was a highlight for me. But yeah, let's talk about it. So the COVID-19 cost, I mean, I was reading an article and they said that government borrowing is expected, you know, from 2020 to the end of this year is expected to sit at 394 billion pounds. Borrowing, where's that money coming from? Okay, like that is so much money, and that comprises of different things, including you know, furlough. So that was like a government policy to keep people in employment. Another one was Eat Out to Help Out. That cost the government a lot of money. So whilst we were doing 2 for 1 and YOLO in Nando's or all of the dinners that we went to last year, that was coming out of, well, that was government borrowing. At some point, that money is going to have to be paid back. And who's going to pay it? Taxpayers. So COVID-19 cost has been massive. It's kind of hard to drill in exactly, but there's been a lot of spend over the last 12 to 18 months. And at some point later, that's going to be reflected through taxes, whether it comes through ULEZ, just throwing that out there, or through income tax or inheritance tax or capital gains tax. Either way, the taxpayers are going to have to pay that. So 4.8, that was the last unemployment figure that was released as of March this year. So they actually said that that wasn't as bad as they thought. And I think that's because of the furlough scheme that the government assisted households with. So a lot of people were able to stay in their jobs because the government supported companies to keep people in employment. So the number isn't as bad, but unemployment isn't unemployment. And the money that government are using to pad companies is coming up, you know, is borrowed money. So another thing is the 2020 stock market crash. So I'm not sure how many people were affected by that, but at some point in March, when the World Health Organization announced that actually, no, this isn't an epidemic, this is a pandemic, the markets started to go crazy, and we saw, I guess, the biggest dips in the market in years, essentially decades. But like everything, what goes down eventually does come back up as well. So although the market crashed, we've seen over the past 12 to 18 months that it's actually recovered, and to levels that were actually better than pre-COVID. So that was actually quite interesting. And during that time as well, we've also seen the emergence of all of these new, you know, digital currencies. When I say digital currencies, I'm talking about cryptocurrencies. We've seen Bitcoin, we've heard about Dogecoin. I'm hearing new coins are getting developed every day. But what this means is that people are active in the markets. It also means that, you know, markets are alive. It also shows that just because there is a dip in the market doesn't mean you're going to lose all your money. You only lose your money if you sell. But for those people that stayed invested when it was hitting all-time lows, they're laughing now. So yeah, that was that. Then what else could I touch on? Personal family savings. So I mentioned how I like the fact that I wasn't spending £300 a month on transport. Well, that's correct. A lot of families have managed to save nothing really to spend other than your groceries. But who saved more during COVID? Well, as expected, middle to higher income families saved a lot more on average than your lower income, those that were unemployed, of course, and those that were furloughed. We saw an increase in take-up of people taking payment holidays, so mortgage holidays. Some people took it because they saw an opportunity to save, not because they needed it, but because they thought it's a good strategy to do. Carl, you were telling me about how people misbehaved with this in particular. People, you know, didn't necessarily contact their lenders to say that they were going to take a payment holiday. You have to agree with it. They just cancelled their direct debits for 4 months and then carried on living life. And it's now working against them. So the government said that if you want to buy a property, we're going to reduce or we're going to remove the tax up to a certain threshold. So what we saw is actually an increase in demand for housing. And so that's actually caused house prices to shoot up. And now that stamp duty provision's been removed, we're still kind of left with this really high house prices. I'll let Carl speak on that. Another thing, we saw people working from home. We're definitely in a new time now where flexible working on a long-term scale is definitely a thing. And then finally, you know, AstraZeneca or Pfizer, you know, the vaccination program is underway. That's actually helped a lot of economies to recover. So the lockdown measures can be loosened, companies can start making money again because people are getting jabbed. So yeah, where are the opportunities in all of this? I mean, some of the things I mentioned, I'm sure there was loads more highlights, but from an opportunities point, I definitely think investing, there's still so much opportunity underway. I mean, people say, we missed the move, you needed to be invested when you were at the bottom. Can't time the market. But there is so much opportunities underway. There are still several countries that are still behind on their vaccination programs. UK and the US may be ahead, but there is still plenty of opportunity to stay. To also mean that some industries haven't fully opened up as well. So that travel industry, for instance, once the measures are reduced and, you know, people are more confident to travel and can travel, we'll definitely see an uptick and an increase in revenues for companies that are associated with the travel industry. And then, of course, job mobility. It's a new way, it's a new life of working. Perhaps this is the time where you should consider changing your job, you know, changing industries. You know, right now we're going through a mid-year performance cycle. Speak to your manager. You've been able to adapt in the past 12 to 18 months. You've managed to, you know, maintain a high performance in your job. Negotiate for a salary. These are ways in where you can increase your income. And then finally, low interest rates. So, you know, at the moment, the government is encouraging people to spend. So they don't want you to save. So interest rates are really low. So really, it's a good time to borrow. So providing you're using the money, you know, to inject into your business, or you want to do a home renovation that will add equity to your home, or, you know, more related to Carl's line of field of work, mortgage rates are very, very low at the moment. And so really is a good opportunity. Carl, I'm not sure if you wanted to kind of jump in on the mortgage piece on there, just to kind of highlight.
Yeah, sure. I was just going to briefly go over the property market on a few points, if that's okay, and I can mention it in that. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to pull it back a stage to talk about the demand and the supply in the market at the moment, and the fact that the demand due to the stamp duty window has skyrocketed, and not that many people are looking to sell at the moment, means that the house prices have just gone through the roof. So it's kind of gone against what we would have expected in a pandemic. So at the moment, a lot of people are overpaying for properties and getting high valuations, which is good for those who've got mortgages, because like you mentioned, you can take advantage of the low interest rates, but also that does mean that individuals who are just starting their property journey are overpaying in the market. So when we're talking to new buyers, and that's something that we obviously discuss when we're talking about the savings phase. The other things to mention as well is about the payment holidays. Unfortunately, some people came foul of the process of it, and they didn't actually contact their lenders. They saw it on the telly or the news and they heard about it and that it was available to most people, just cancelled their direct debits, and now that's hit their credit profile. So that's really hit the credit score. So when they're looking at their affordability, which we'll talk about a little bit further along the line, then it has really impacted their property journey. But there are specialist lenders out there for people who are in that situation. So again, we'll touch on that in the property journey later on.
Nice, thank you for that, Carl. So yeah, there are actually plenty of opportunities right now in the market. So I think now would be a good time for us to just do a quick health check, a reminder of things that we can do to shore up our finances. So those that know me, and I've spoken before, I'm always banging on about spending, checking what you're spending on versus what you're getting in. You know, I think we've had the opportunity to save a bit, but please do go back over the past couple of months and have a look at what you're spending your money on. Review the spending and look for patterns. At the same time, what you want to do as well is also look at your income and find ways that you can increase your income and then decrease your outgoings. And always try and find a way to stick to your budget year. I shared a budget tracker that I've given to the Eleuthera team. If anyone's interested in having that, please do contact the team, and I believe they should send that to you. Just kind of let them know in the chat you want that. Really helpful. If you're into the old school type of, typing your budget out, it is very easy and helpful to follow. You need to review your direct debits. So please have a quick scan of any of your unused memberships and subscriptions that you don't use. The gym has been very nice to us and they've paused our payments. Now that it's back and up and running, don't lie to yourself. If you're not going, just cancel it for now. And then when you're ready to go, then you can sign up. There's a lot of promotions right now where gyms are asking people to come. They're not going to charge you a joining fee. Do yourself a favor, cancel subscriptions and memberships you don't need. Then you want to do is focus on paying off any high interest bearing debt. So credit cards or any overdrafts that have really high interest that are getting accrued on top, it's going to cost you more to keep this debt running. Please prioritize on paying these off. If you think about the next point kind of leads into debt as well. So I would always say, focus on paying off the things that are going to cost you more to run in the long term. But if you've got a variety of different debts that run in different types of figures as well, not including your mortgage or your student loan, but if you've got like a personal loan, a student loan, not your university student loan, but like maybe a master's loan that you took out, a personal career development loan that you took out from the bank. These loans come with quite hefty interest rates. So what you want to do is please choose or adapt the way that you're paying off your debt, okay? So there are 3 methods you can use. The snowball method is the one where you list all your debts in order from the smallest to the highest and start paying off the smallest. You're paying minimum payments on everything, so you're not missing out, but you are challenging or you're focusing all your energy on paying off the smallest one. Once you pay that off, you move on to the next. And it basically works like a snowball. Think about a small snowball starting at the top of a hill, rolling down, is collecting all of the powder from the snow until it gets to the bottom and it's a really big, huge snowball. That's the impact that this method has. The avalanche method actually works like the high interest bearing debt way. So you're paying off any debt that has really high interest. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. If it's high interest, that should be your focus, just because you're focusing on trying to be as cost effective as possible. Then the last one is debt consolidation. So this is pretty one that you might need to seek advice from, but how it works is you're basically, if you have loads of different interest rates and they're quite high, what you can do is add up the sum and calculate the average of the interest across all of them. And what you do is you apply for a third-party loan. So if your debts add up to £10,000, take out a 10K loan, and the repayment on that loan will be actually lower than the amount that you're paying on each individual debt that you have. So what that allows you to do is use the loan to pay off all your debts, and now you are only paying off one thing, one rate, and it helps to order things. All right, so the next one is saving for an emergency fund. So I mean, the last 12 to 18 months has pretty much shown us the importance of having a rainy day fund. We didn't guess that a pandemic was going to happen, but that's what this is what this fund is for. Well, they call it emergency fund, rainy day fund, living fund. It's got so many names, but what you want to do is to be able to keep at least 1 to 3 months worth of your expenses liquid, so in cash, in an account, not invested, ready for a rainy day. Your rainy day is not going to dinner. Your rainy day is not going for holiday. It's for those ad hoc expenses, those things that you can't actually budget for in life. And that's what that's there for. Another thing that you can do to shore up your finances from the long term is make sure that you've opted into your workplace pension. So, lucky, most companies now auto enroll all of their employees into one. And your workplace pension basically is you actively making contributions to a pot of money that you're going to eventually use to retire on. So everybody, yes, should get a state pension, depending, if you have a national insurance number and you're paying your national insurance contributions. But as your living costs increase year on year and, our retirement age is increasing as well, it's going to take a lot more money to be able to live when we retire in, however long that is, 40, 50 years time. So opt in if you've opted out, And if you are already auto-enrolled, please check your HR documents to make sure how much, check how much you're paying out of your monthly salary, and your employers should be matching that percentage. If you're happy with it, say it's 3%, you're paying 3% and they're paying 3%, great. When you get pay rise, increase that amount. This money is invested, so it's going to grow over time. So when it's time for you to retire, there's a pot of money waiting for you to live off. Great. So last two, really, the last time I spoke about starting to normalize having really good conversations about money. Such a taboo, so it's such a stigma to talk about with family and friends, just because of how people have had poor experience with it. But it's time to actually really find a friend or confidant, your partner or your spouse, and start having good open conversations about money, especially what your plans are and so forth. And again, yes, the last point is review your short, medium and long-term goals. Are you close to saving up to your house deposit? What's it going to take for you to reach your investment target this year? Do you even have a goal in the first place? Or is just money coming in and out and there's no real hard plan? This is the time to really think about things. So with that being said, I want us to talk a bit about saving. So individual savings accounts. I'm not sure of how many people have heard of this. I don't know if you want to put in the chat, let me know, does anybody know what an individual savings account is, an ISA? There's no shame, there's no wrong answer. I mean, there might be still. Yes, if you know, thumbs up if you know. Yep, yes, you do. Okay, excellent. That's really, really good. Lovely, good. All right then. So an ISA. So an individual savings account, what are they? So an ISA really is a tax-free savings account, right? So every tax year you have an allowance in the UK that lets you save or invest your money up to a certain limit without paying taxes on your returns. I don't know if anyone's heard of the phrase, there's two things in this life are certain, death and taxes, right? So if you live in this country, you know that they like to tax, you know that they like to take your money. So imagine having a pot of money that you worked hard for, and you've got it in a kind of standard savings account and it's earning interest. It is still possible for them to tax you on that money that you've already earned and been taxed on as well. So this is what an ISA is for. It's a way to wrap your money away from, I guess, being taxed. So an ISA, how much can I save in a tax year? So you have an ISA allowance of £20,000 every tax year. Now the tax year runs from the 6th of April to the 5th of April the following year. It's not a calendar year, January to December. So our tax year began at the 6th of April this year and will end next year, May, the 5th of April, right? So you have your maximum amount that you can save in an ISA is 20K. Now, there are loads of different ISA products that I'll run through, but you can choose to invest or save your money into one type, or you can split them across different types that we have, and I'll run through them. But you can't invest or save more than 20K across all of them. If you save outside or over that, you're going to get taxed, your tax band. So you have to save or invest by the 5th of April, following tax year, for it to count towards this year's allowance. If you don't use your allowance, it doesn't roll over. You don't use it, you lose it, but you get a new allowance the following year. So there are 4 ISAs. So you get cash ISA. Cash ISA basically is a savings account that has a fixed or a floating, so it changes the rate of interest, and you can get different types of access to those type of ISAs. You've got an innovation finance, so that just allows you to lend your money to other businesses, and then works out like a loan, and all the money that you earn in interest from those borrowers taking your money, you get that tax-free. You've got a lifetime ISA, which is one of the newer products. So this is a government-backed scheme that allows you can either help you get on the property ladder for the first time, or it can actually help as contributing towards your retirement savings. And then finally, a stocks and shares ISA, which is one of my favorites. It's what you can use. You can use your ISA allowance to actually invest in the market. So you can invest in shares, funds, bonds, exchange traded funds, and many more. And you can use that to grow your savings tax-free. So I'll run through them pretty quickly. So your cash ISA features. So you've got 20K that you can put. So you can decide to put the full 20K in a cash ISA. And you can be between the ages of 16 to 18 onwards to open one, right? And so really the key features of this is that there's no tax paid on the interest. So if you put your money in a standard savings account, you potentially get taxed on anything above your own personal savings allowance. So if you're a basic tax player, you get an allowance of £1,000. So if you earn interest on money that you've got in an account, up to £1,000, you won't get taxed. Anything above that, you start paying tax on your tax rate. And if you're a higher rate taxpayer, it's only £500. With your cash ISA, all the interest that you earn within this account isn't taxed, okay? The money that you put into this account is protected. So there is a scheme called the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. That means that if you hold your money within a UK regulated bank or building society, so like your Barclays, your HSBC, if you have a cash ISA, any savings up to £85,000 per person is protected. So if that bank goes bust, this scheme is there to allow you to recoup your losses up to 85K per person, okay? So there are a number of cash ISAs that you can get. You can get easy access ISAs. So that means once you put your money in, you can keep going in and out and you won't get a penalty for accessing your money. You get notice cash ISAs. So when you put your money in, sometimes you may have to give the bank notice of maybe 30 days or 60 days that you want to access your money. And then once you do that, the time starts ticking. And then after 60 days, you can get access to your money. This is kind of good for people who want to earn a higher rate of interest and don't need access to their money really quickly. Then you've got fixed rate ISAs. So they have higher rates of interest than your notice or easy access ISAs. But if you need to access your money, you'll actually have to pay an interest penalty. So I think that one's more for kind of long-term long-term saving. They don't want people to touch that money. And for you not touching your money, you get rewarded that interest, that extra interest. So the innovation finance ISA is, if you've got, money that you want to lend to other businesses, peer-to-peer, then you can do that. And anytime you lend your funds out to borrowers, so they can be individuals or companies, any interest you earn back for lending that money out isn't taxed. Just key things to think about if you're going to do this is you might lose the money if the people you've lent to don't pay you back. And the people that provide the ISA, some providers might guarantee that money back, but the likelihood is they don't need to. So you could lose that money. You might also struggle to get your money back out if you want your money. So what we found during COVID was that people had done these peer-to-peer lendings, but you have to wait for other investors to buy you out. And so with everyone struggling, trying to sell their loans, it took months and months for people to get out, anything up to 20K, which was quite unfortunate. And also note that these savings aren't protected. So the moment you loan that money out, it's no longer protected under the scheme that I mentioned. Some providers give you a safeguard fund, but they don't have to do that. A lifetime ISA. So I think this is something that everyone should know about. So you can essentially, a lifetime ISA allows you to get on the property ladder, essentially, or you can use it as retirement savings. You can have a cash lifetime ISA or stocks and shares lifetime ISA. So what you do is you can invest up to £4,000 or say £4,000 in these accounts, and you can use it as a deposit for your first home. So cash ISAs are lifetime ISAs are pretty good for people who are buying a house soon and they know they have a fixed amount that they're going to use for their deposit. Whereas stocks and shares lifetime ISAs are good for people that are comfortable taking a bit of risk. You want to save the money actually for retirement instead, and you'd rather benefit from the capital growth over a long time, or you're not looking to buy a house anytime soon. But no, obviously when you invest in stocks and shares ISAs, your capital is at risk, so you can end up getting less than what you initially put back in. So just be mindful of that. But the beauty of these ISAs is that you get a 25% bonus on top of your savings, and that's why people really are chomping at this. So the government will pay this 25% bonus monthly. It's paid and calculated monthly. So if you save 1,000 into this, you will get a £250 bonus. So the total you'll have is 1,200. If you save the full 4K in this account, then that bonus will take you up to 5K. So it's essentially you're rewarded for every £4 you save, you're rewarded £1. So, and that is before interest or investment growth. Okay, so you could get that £1,000 from the government. You save 4K, you've got total 5K. That's also invested in the market. So it's in the growth here, which is really good. You can only open one if you're aged between 18 and 39. So once you hit 40, you can keep paying into this ISA, but you can't open a new account. And you also stop earning the bonus when you are 50 years old. Other things to think about as well with this is you can only withdraw the cash if you're buying a home or you're 60 plus, or if you're terminally ill. So the purpose of this is solely for retirement savings or for buying a first time, like you're a first time buyer. If you take out your money at any time before this, you're going to face a 25% penalty. So that's the bonus that you received on top of some of the original capital that you've got in there. You can use your savings as a first time buyer, but you've got to have your ISA open for at least 12 months. So I would say if you've got one, just because it's open, you need to pay into it. So that gets the clock ticking. So if you've got a lifetime ISA and there's nothing in it, please start the clock. You're trying to buy a house soon, at least put something in there so that it starts ticking. Okay. And if you're going to use your lifetime ISA to buy a property, it's for a property that's worth up to 450K. Carl, can you remind me of the limits, especially with that client that got blindsided recently and you mentioned?
Yeah, so the limit for buying a property, as you mentioned on the screen, is 450,000. We had some clients who just bought a house for 455,000, wasn't aware of the limits, and they would end up having to forfeit around £8,000. So unfortunately, they had to pull out of the house. And they didn't get the house they wanted. So they're now looking for another house. But yeah, it's really important to remember 450,000. And also in London, it will affect some of us 600,000.
Right, thank you for that. And also note that the house has to be your main property. So it's not a buy to rent. This is supposed to be your main home. It's not a holiday home, it's your main residence. Another good thing is you can combine your lifetime ISA with your partner if you are both first-time buyers. So providing you're both eligible, meaning you're not a current homeowner, you've had your account open for at least 12 months, you can both pool your savings and bonuses together to raise a deposit, which is great. And now stocks and shares ISAs. So one of my favorite ISAs. So you can invest the full 20,000 deposit limit into your stocks and shares ISA. So what it does, it basically acts like a wrapper. And it basically stops you from getting taxed from different types of tax, so capital gains tax. So if you invested in a company that grew and you made a lot of money from it, when you were to sell that company, capital gains tax is basically a taxation on the money you've made on that. If you've invested within an ISA, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get taxed that. And it's the same with income tax. If you get paid dividends, so this is a reward for investing within a company, after a certain limit, so if you pass everyone gets an allowance. If you pass a certain limit, if you haven't invested within a stocks and shares ISA, you're going to start getting taxed, income tax, on those payments that you get from a company. So all of your gains and your earnings are sheltered within a stocks and shares ISA. So just, things to think about. I mean, you can only pay into one stocks and shares ISA per tax year. So you can't have one open with Hargreaves Lansdown and one open with Trading 212 and be paying into it. You're going to get in trouble with HMRC. You can only pay into one per tax year. You can open one with another provider the following year, but you can't pay into both within the same tax year. Okay. So you can use this to invest in loads of different things. So shares, funds, bonds, you can invest in, access to property, and it just depends on the type of broker and platform that you use. So just note that, of course, if you are investing your money, the value of your investments, the money that you put in can go down. There's always a risk involved in investing. So the general consensus with investments, you got to think long term. It's not going to be a short term quick fix. I know we hear things about day trading and things like that, but really investment, to really see the value of investing, you've got to think long term. stay invested, and you'll see the benefits of compound interest at work. And I can talk about that much later. Another thing to consider is if you draw down from your stocks and shares ISA, you can't replace that money from your allowance. So say, for instance, you put in 15,000 in your ISA for the tax year, then you took out 5K later. You probably wanted to do something with your house. So your ISA now sits at 10K. Your allowance remaining for the year is still 5K. So you put in 15, you have 5K left. You can't go and put 10K in because you now have 10K. I hope that makes sense. You can't replace what you take out, okay? And the only type of product that you're allowed to do that, where you can put in and take out and put in and take out, and your allowance flexes, are some cash ISAs. And there's only a few places that do that, a few banks that do that. I know Barclays have flexible cash ISAs, but they're cash ISAs, they're not, investing ISAs, okay? So just take note of that. And also be aware of charges and fees on platforms. So if you've got stocks and shares ISA, you're going to need a broker to trade and buy and sell shares and stuff. Each broker has their own fees and their charges. Even the funds and that you're investing in, fund managers will take a percentage of how much you hold. So please, think about where you're investing and how much it's going to cost you. Okay. And then finally, just the last thing on ISAs is the junior ISA. I've thought this is a really great product as well. So this is a great way to start, saving for your children that are alive. So it's, you're opening an ISA for your child that you have, and you can invest a limit of, you can invest or save a limit of 9K. So this is for your children aged, from birth up until the age of 18. So you can open a junior ISA on behalf of your child. So you can use the funds for future uni costs, or whether you want to save for their wedding or their first home. All the gains and the interest are tax-free. So you can invest. You can either invest, or you can open a stocks and shares junior ISA, or a cash one, or you can have both. But you've got to split the allowance between the two. You can't go over the 9K limit. Just to note that the junior ISA is actually separate from your own personal ISA. So you have your own 20K, your husband, your spouse, your wife or your spouse has 20K, your child also has 9,000. So that's a great way to kind of shelter funds from tax. So it's a really, really handy way of being tax efficient with your investing. So just note, your children can't touch the money until they turn 18, and you cannot withdraw the money as well. Okay, there's a nice little loophole as well in the system. So if you're between the ages of 16 and 17, you can have of course you have access to your junior ISA, but you can also actually open a cash ISA, so an adult cash ISA. So that means that between the ages of 16 to 17, you have an allowance of 29. So in Jesus' name, that you will have that money to be able to invest that much for your children. I think it's a really, really fantastic way to save. But of course, just note that if you are using a junior stocks and shares ISA, it is going, it's going to be exposed to the risks of investing. So what you put in could potentially be, what you can get out will potentially be less than what you put in. If you've got any questions on the ISA stuff, I know I kind of blew past that, but please put them in the chat and let me know, because we are now going to zoom on straight to investing. Okay, but just give me a shout. Was that clear for everybody? Let me know if you've got any questions. Okay, I can see some questions coming through to me directly. Hopefully we'll take a look at that after. Okay, cool. So I have just made the chat super big. Let me get rid of that. Okay, investing. So is anybody here an investor at the moment? Let me see emojis, hands up, or in the chat. Who's an investor, an avid investor? I'm loving this. This is good. Yeah. A beginner, it doesn't matter. You're still an investor. That's great. Okay. So, I mean, investing can sound really scary, especially with like the way modern media portrays it, make it look so complicated and very frustrating. And it can actually deter people from wanting to do it. But investing is actually really important. Concept to your notes of it. And then if you have any questions, we can cover it later. So investing. So what is it? What is investing? I've got a really complicated way of explaining it. And then me and my husband are kind of thinking about what's the easiest way to put it. And I think I'll start with that first, and then we can go on to the complicated one. So if you think about in the most simplest terms, investing works like taking your money and putting it away, putting it in the ground, for instance, putting it away. Take a seed. Think about taking a seed and putting it in the ground. So you put your money away, you let it grow, and you have more money later. So take a seed, put it in the ground, you water it, you leave it alone. At some point, that seed is going to become an apple tree. So now you have the tree and the apples. You can consume the apples, and you have the tree that's going to keep producing apples in due season, right? So that's how essentially investing works. You allocate your money to purchase something. So it could be a good, with the expectation that at some point you're going to receive a positive benefit or return in the future. So you want to own the asset because you either want to generate income from it, or you want to see the value of that thing grow over time. So good examples of that: property, right? You buy a house at a low price. At some point, you would like that house to appreciate in price. Think about, I've got this bag here. Some people may or may not know it. It's a Birkin bag. These bags are really, really hard to come across. You can't walk into a shop and buy it. The value of these bags are so expensive, but it's so lucrative that it's actually seen as an investment. I think this particular bag costs 16K. You buy it, at some point, if you sell it later on in the future, you should be able to maybe get your money back, and even more so over time. Got another one, the Mona Lisa, that's hanging in the Louvre in France. This painting is worth millions and millions and millions. Goods can hold value. And the reason why you want to invest is so that you can see a growth in holding or having ownership of that asset. I've also got Apple there because Apple has grown from a not known company to one of the most recognizable companies in the world. All you need to do is show the logo and people know what it is. So why should we invest? Well, in a world where inflation exists, you really need to put your hard-earned money to work. So for me to describe it, inflation is basically the continuous rise in prices. And what that does, it actually reduces the value of the money that you have. So it reduces your ability to purchase things, your purchasing power. So for instance, £50 in the 1950s can't buy you the same basket of goods in 2021. And I think the best way to describe that is Freddo's. Does everyone know Freddo's? Like the chocolate, the 20p chocolate. So once upon a time, I used to be able to go into my Tesco with my 20p and buy a Freddo. I'm pretty sure at some point it was 10p. The price of Freddos now ranges anything from 70p to 80p. That is rude, very rude for a tiny piece of chocolate this small. But that is the power of inflation. It's the constant increase in prices. That same 20p that I had way long before that can't get me the same good. And that's what inflation does. So you need to put your money in investing. Essentially allows you to beat inflation. You need to make a return in the market that beats inflation. Now, a good level of inflation is 2%, right? That's when people in the government are saying on the news, inflation is good, it's 2%. Anything above that, which is what we're looking at right now, which is what our economy is facing right now, it means our money cannot sit in a standard savings account, because it's sitting in the bank account alone. You are losing the value of your money, okay? So that's one reason why we should invest. Low interest rates can't compete with market rates, right? So I'll explain, how the, market make money and stuff later, but your interest rates that we're making right now, we're talking about like 0.1%, is nothing. It really is. So if you add inflation plus really rubbish interest rates, and your money is sitting in this really poor, in this account that's, earning a really poor rate of interest, it's going to only make it's only going to reduce your purchasing power even more. So interest rates, I mentioned before, right now are low because the government want to encourage us to spend. They want us to put the money in the economy. They want us to spend and drive activity in the economy. These type of rates, they can't outperform the market. So what you need to be able to maintain or grow your wealth, the money that you work hard for, you need to be able to put your money in a vehicle that will allow your money to grow at a faster rate than inflation is affecting your money. And then finally, why should we invest? Really and truly, it's the power of compounding. Compounding, I mean, I believe Albert Einstein said it, but someone else quoted me that it was Warren Buffett. But it's a great quote. It says that compound interest is the 8th wonder in the world, right? People say that there are 7 wonders in the world. They said, he who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it, okay? So interest works in 2 ways. You can either be earning it or you can be paying it, right? So in the context of investing, it really is the principle that when compounding works, that if you save and invest, then compounding allows you to earn interest on the interest you're earning or the returns that you're already making. It basically means you're earning interest on the interest that you're making. Does that make sense, people? Yeah, it's really a great way. So you've put in £100, and then you make a 10% return. When you leave that money invested, and next year the market makes another 10%, that 10% interest you made is also going to earn a 10% interest. So what that means, it basically means that your investments over time are growing to grow at a faster rate. And compounding time, it really does. So if you remain invested in the market over a long period of time and you're continuing to add to it over and over, you're contributing to your portfolio, your investments are going to grow at a faster rate. Think of it like folding a sheet of paper. You have a sheet of paper, you fold it in half. Already from one fold, your paper is now 2 sheets thick. You fold it again, it's now 4. You keep folding it and it's compounding. Someone said that if you're able to fold a normal sheet of paper 27 times, it's going to be the height of Mount Everest. Obviously, you won't be able to do that, but you can see the power of compounding. One small action can create bigger impacts, okay? And then other reasons why we should invest, really, I love these 2, ownership and generational wealth. I mean, it feels good to know that I can have ownership in a company. If I can invest and buy shares in valuable company, I can buy property, valuable property that I know is going to grow in wealth, grow in value over time. That's a great thing, because owning these assets that appreciate in value will create significant wealth for me, and it will change my standard of living. And you can pass this wealth down to children. We hear about these really powerful families like Rockefeller and Rothschild family. This is wealth that has been well managed and passed down the family for generations, and it comes through ownership, having assets having ownership of assets that are strong and high in value and continue to grow in value over time. And then finally, we should invest because we want to be able to create wealth to retire on. So the result of your strong performance in your portfolio throughout your lifetime means you can have financial freedom in retirement. Your pension that you have with your companies, this money is already invested. There's no way that money is sitting in a savings account somewhere. Your company is investing that money and it's growing over time. So at some point when you retire, that money has been accruing and growing in the market over a span of years. You can do the same thing for yourself by opening a shares account, essentially, and investing and allowing that money to grow over time, so you can access this money and improve your quality of life at retirement. If your investments do well, you can even retire far earlier than that. We've got a lot of Tesla millionaires living in America and the UK at the moment. So retiring at the age of 30 because they can see the power of what investing can do. So let me just try and explain, where do you go to invest your money? And I believe, like, if you want to buy something, someone's most likely going to be able to supply it. I believe there's a market for anything. I want to buy hair, I'll go to my hair lady and I'll be able to get something. if you want to buy groceries, you know that you can go to the supermarket because they have access to the products you're looking for. It's basically like supply and demand. Someone wants something, someone's going to be able to provide it. The concept same works for investing as well. You can invest, so exchange your money for ownership of something, i.e. property, right? So if you wanted to own a house, where would you go to? You would go to an estate agent. So that estate agent represents someone who works on behalf of the property market. This person has expertise on where you buy houses, where you can find the best deals and so forth. I take my money to them and they will help me buy a house. So same way, if you want to go and own a part of a company, you would go to the stock market, which is essentially a massive financial marketplace. And you would go through a broker who, could be a bank, or let's use the example I was using regarding shops and stuff. A Tesco would be the equivalent of a broker. You would go to Tesco to buy your products. You want groceries, we'll go to Tesco and buy the stuff that you want, okay? So, saying that, what is the stock market then? So the stock market is a big market, essentially, made available to the public. So who goes there? You've got individuals like me and you. We've got companies that are chilling there. We've got governments that are there as well. And what we all come together to do is to either buy, to sell, or to issue shares, stocks, or other investment assets like bonds. So bonds being loans, or funds, and I'll explain funds in detail a bit later, property. And you can access all of these goods and assets through brokers via, i.e. a supermarket. So why do companies come to the stock market? Well, companies come to the stock market to sell, or in other words, issue their shares. They're willing to give up a piece of their company, right, to you so that they can raise finance for their businesses so they can increase in value. So they're willing to say, all right, Vanessa, you can have a share of my company for X amount of money, their share price, i.e. So we go to buy and sell our shares so that we can make a profit from these companies. So you can do that either two ways. You can either get money from these companies. So what they'll do is they'll reward you by giving you some cash for initially giving money to them. So when I buy shares in a company, I give them money so they can do things in their company, can use it for research and development. When they start doing well, they'll be like, here's a reward thank you for investing in us. Here's some money, right? And that's dividends. Another way you can make money is buying the shares in the company, right? So Apple, when it first came out, when they first issued shares, their share price is nowhere near what it is now. It's really low. Buying at a low price, they've done extremely well. They've launched brilliant products. They've done fantastic. And so now their shares are trading at a really high level. People want to invest in an Apple. So I can say, I'm actually quite happy with how well I've done. I want to sell my share. And so now you profit from the difference between the high level you've sold it at versus the amount that you initially bought it at. So that's ways that you can make make money on the stock market. Let me know if that is clear. Okay. So I'm not sure if people have heard of the term FTSE 100 or S&P 500. So I thought I'd do a good job of trying explaining what that is. So the stock market, as I mentioned, is where people come to buy and sell stuff. But really it's made up of loads of different companies. And these companies, of course, do different things, right? Some people or some businesses are more successful than others. So that means they're worth way more than others, right? So I want you to envision a human body, right? The human body is made up of different parts. And my husband did a really good job of explaining it. If someone asks you, how are you? You say, I'm fine. But there are different sums of parts of you that make you you. So we want to think about, if we think about a stock index, what the stock index does, it measures a specific section of the stock market, i.e. it's focusing on the hand, right? So what it does, it looks at the changes in share price of different companies. Now, a section of the stock market could be the industry that the company trades in. So it could be only tech companies. So Amazon and Zoom, and give me another tech company. If anyone can think of one, type one in the comments. Another tech company. that we know is doing really well, where you've been wasting all your money. Google, great, excellent. I already mentioned Amazon, right? Cool. So Google is another tech. Microsoft, excellent. So you can create an index just looking at tech companies, right? You can also create an index that looks at companies that are all based in one location, like UK companies. Or you can create an index based on the biggest companies in the world, right? You can do anything essentially. And what it does is you can use the index to actually measure the health of that segment of the market. Or what it can also do is be an indicator of how well a particular economy is doing. So we use indexes because it allows investors, like to me and you, if we've invested in a particular type of industry or company, a stock index can actually work as like a foundation for us to check, has my stock actually done well, right? Have I beaten the market? Okay, so you might hear that phrase from time to time. So stock indexes work as like benchmarks. They're like the foundation for the performance of how economies or industries or companies as a whole are doing. So two of the really popular global market indexes that you might hear of are the FTSE 100 or the S&P 500. So the FTSE 100 is 100 of the biggest UK-based companies, and S&P 500 covers the biggest 500 companies based in the States. So let's talk about what you can invest in. Okay, I'm going to try and whiz through this. So I'm going to go through different things that you can invest in. And I'm going to try and use chocolate to make it as simple as possible. So individual shares, you can invest in individual shares. So the most widely understood way of understanding stocks is purchasing shares. So I mentioned before that a company is willing to give you a piece of ownership of their business in return for your money. So you buying a share in a company is like the equivalent of you buying one Snickers bar, okay? You can buy as many as you can afford, but you are essentially only buying one of the same thing, yeah? So you buying Apple, one share in Apple is like you buying a Snickers bar. Now, the value of Snickers or the value of Apple can go up and down. It can grow massively in value, or it can go all the way down to zero. So what that looks like is Apple going bust. I highly doubt that's going to happen, but that's an example. That's the risk, essentially, that's involved in investing, especially in a single stock. So when I say it's a share in a company, that's the risk, that the value of the share is going to go down to zero, meaning there's something wrong with the company or the company has failed. Now, you can guard against this risk by buying other shares in other companies. So in this case, you can buy other chocolate bars. Maybe instead of just buying Snickers, you buy a Bounty, or you buy a Mars bar. Or what you could do is buy a pooled group of investments called funds. Now, the process of you buying different things is what we call diversification. And that means you're spreading your risk. You're not putting all of your eggs in one basket. You're spreading your risk. So if I don't want to buy an individual share, what else can I buy? Okay, then I can buy into what we call an active managed fund. So what these are essentially is a basket of stocks. So a bit of Snickers, a bit of Maltesers, a bit of Bounty, a bit of this, a bit of that. And it's chosen by a really smart person, right? And they think that I can buy and invest in these companies. And I think these companies I've picked are going to do better than the index. So the FTSE 100, the top 100 companies in the world, I think I'm going to outperform them based on these companies I've chosen to invest in. So what you do by purchasing a unit of a fund, what you're doing is you're buying one thing, but you own so many different things. So it's like buying a box of celebrations. You've bought one box, but you've got access to so many chocolates in comparison to buying each individual one. It costs so much more to do that, right? So when you buy units in a fund, what you do is you give your money to a professional to say, look, I trust your expertise. I'll know how to do this, okay? I'm going to give you my money, and they're charging you for their expertise, whether it's been proven or not. So how well that fund performs, is determined by how well that professional is able to decide what they buy, where they buy it, and when they buy it. So at what point, like, has the share price increased or decreased? and you pay the manager a fee, whether they do well or not, okay? So we've got individuals, so you're buying either a Snickers or actually you're buying a box of Celebrations. What you could also do is invest in tracker or index funds. So what these are, they're also baskets of company stocks, but instead of being selected by that really smart person, what a company might do, like a broker might do, or a computer might do, is they're saying, actually, let's just copy the index. Let's copy the FTSE 100. We know that the FTSE 100 is comprised of all of these 100 companies. Why don't we just create a fund that just copies exactly that index? So it's basically you buying a box of chocolates, right? It's a unique box of chocolates. But in that box of chocolate, you have all the chocolates that are from the Celebration box. In that same box, you have got all the chocolates from the Heroes chocolate box. You've got all the chocolates from Roses, and you've got all the chocolates from Quality Street in one place. All right. So think about how much cheaper that would be. Instead of you buying a box of Celebrations, Heroes, Roses, and Quality Street, it's all in one place. So you get a bit of everything rather than buying the individuals. So what you'd find is index funds or tracker funds, they're so much cheaper because no one's running it. It's just copying the index. And it's basically passively run. So you don't really need to do hard work on it. So you can invest in these funds. And this is actually a very popular way of investing. A lot of beginner investors invest in tracker and index funds because it's cheap, it's low cost to run. And because it's copying the index tends to do well year on year anyway, and generates a consistent percentage that beats inflation most times. So it's a very good way. So what you could also invest in is something called exchange traded funds. So what these are is, I mentioned before that you can have two types of funds. You can either have a fund that's run by a person, or a fund that's run essentially by a computer, or it's just kind of passively managed. Now, I mentioned before that single shares, like my Snickers bar, for instance, if I want to buy my Snickers bar, I want to buy a share, I can buy it between a particular time. I can buy it any time during the day, and the price of it will change every day. It will change minute by minute. You can't really do the same thing for funds. If you want to buy funds, you can only buy it within a certain period of time, and the price is only calculated at one point per day. So there's like one price per day. So what ETFs are is like they're funds, but they trade like shares. So you get all the benefits of a fund. So the diversification, access to all of those chocolates, all of those companies, but you can buy them like you can buy a Snickers bar off the counter. So think of a Celebrations box, but wrapped in a bar. So can you picture that? You get all the benefits of a fund, but you can buy it like an individual bar, essentially. Let me know if you've got any questions on that. So do social media FX traders, do they, well, I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. Okay, bye. I'm gonna go on, bye. All right then, I need to really hurry up. Right, Carl, I'm coming. I'm gonna give you your time, I promise. I'm coming. Okay, so brokerages, how do I invest in the stock market? So you're gonna need a broker, essentially. Your broker is the middleman between you and the stock market. You can't walk through the front door for a stock market. It doesn't work that way. You need someone to give you access. So same way you want groceries, you go to the supermarket to purchase what you want. The broker is your supermarket. Broker is your Tesco. And there are loads of different brokerages, and they offer different types of financial products. And you need to find the broker that's right for you, essentially. So when you want to, when you're choosing a broker, just these are things that you need to consider. Take a picture of the screen because I'm going to kind of whiz through these things. So decide where you want to invest, right? Do you want to invest in the UK market? Or are you interested in these weird, you want to invest in a market that no one really knows? Cool, but you need to be able to know that the shop or the supermarket that you want this good from has the product that you want. Okay, you're looking for a particular type of lace wig, right? You need to go to someone that has what you're looking for. You can't just walk into Tesco. Tesco does not sell lace wig, okay? So you need to be able to know who has access to what you're looking for. Most times, because we all want access to shares, most brokers have what we're looking for, but still look, right? Make sure they offer a stocks and shares ISA, please. Okay, guys, I've mentioned before, if you're going to invest, you need it to be in a tax efficient wrapper. Okay, it's going to make a difference. I believe and I pray when you guys start your investing journey that you'll receive favor and your wealth will grow in Jesus' name. Please do not let the tax man come and take your money. Okay, make sure that they offer stocks and shares ISAs. Some brokers charge for you to open one, so shop around. Okay, have a look at the range of investments that they offer. I'll show you a list of brokers that you can, it's not an exhaustive list, but have a look at the types of shares and funds that they offer. Not everyone offers everything. Decide what you want from your broker, okay? Like, do you want to invest for yourself or do you want someone else to do it for you? If you are completely clueless, the whole idea of investing scares you, even after speaking about this. There are some brokers that offer a robo advisory. So basically like, basically they do it for you, okay? They do it for you. They invest for you. You just kind of key in, all right, I'm quite risk averse. I don't want to lose my money. This is how I feel. These are the things I like. Okay, based on what you put in, then they'll invest your money in those stuff, all right? Be mindful that depending on what you want to do, whether you want to do it yourself or whether you want someone to do it for you, they will charge you based on these options. Check your charges and your costs carefully, okay? When you are using a broker, it depends on the broker. Some will charge every time you trade. Some will charge for you to purchase funds. Some brokerages don't charge you at all for trading. If you're the type of person that's going to be selling, buying, selling, buying, selling, buying, selling, buying, find a broker that charges 0 commission on transactions, okay? You need to think about it as well. If you're investing in funds, there will be an underlying fund charge. Someone is running it, whether it's a computer or, like a business or a one like really smart person that's doing it. So there are costs involved. And just kind of like understand how the broker works, like the systems they have. If they've got an app, make sure you like them. Don't just rush. Feel around it. Most of these brokerages have mobile apps. They have, all of these systems. Make sure you feel it. Okay, so understand how it works, navigate the websites, feel like you like the website. The user experience, in my opinion, is probably one of the most important parts of your investment journey. If you don't know how to use someone, you're going to sell things and you're going to, do something dangerous with your account, like you kind of you've got to understand what you're doing, okay? Right, so take a picture of this. This is not an exhaustive list, okay? Please shop around. You can use money market, money market, or just type in stocks and shares ISA broker. These are some of the like popular brokerages you can use. Some of your banks also allow you to trade as well. I know Barclays, if you bank with Barclays, I know Carl does as well. I bank with Barclays, but I don't like them anymore. So yeah, they have their own investing platform called Smart Investor as well. I just didn't want to add it there because I liked my format. So yeah, so just Smart Investor is another one that you can use. But take a picture of this. There's plenty more that you can access, okay? And finally, okay, let me stress this. I want everyone to read the red very clearly, okay? This is not financial advice, okay? The list of funds here are just an idea. Funds that at some point I may have been invested in. Maybe I'm invested in it. Maybe it's in my watch list. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you. I'm just saying, if this is not investment advice, please contact a financial advisor for advice on your investments. Also note that your capital is at risk. You may get back less than you initially invested. Be careful. If it's a house deposit and you go and you drop it and you've got to complete your property in a month's time, please, I've warned you, capital at risk, okay? When you find your broker and you don't know where to start, these are, some things, an example of some funds that you could potentially invest in. A lot of these are index funds. So I mentioned index funds are copycats, essentially, of indexes. They're quite cheap to run as well. I've got one that's an active fund. So that will be a little bit expensive to run over the long term, but it's performing very well in the market. I may or may not be in it now. And there are some other exchange traded funds. So remember the celebration that looks like a chocolate bar. So you can buy a fund, but you can buy it like a share, okay? So that wraps the end of Vanessa. I am going to pass on to Carl, who's going to talk to us all things finance. But please hold on to your questions. Yeah, Sam, please don't give away our stuff, okay? Right, yeah, hold on to your questions and make a note of them, and hopefully we'll be able to answer them. All right, Carl, go. I'm gonna
go. Yes, this sounds great. Thank you very much. I'm gonna throw some energy into the room. I'm gonna share my screen. Let me know, give me a thumbs up if you can see it. Right, it should be up. Thumbs up, can we see? Yes, brilliant. First things first, I'm going to ask everyone, because we've been sat down for at least an hour, to at least stand up and just move around a bit, get a bit of energy in. I think that everyone needs to wake up. I can see everyone on the camera. I've done too many of these presentations for everyone to be sat down for too long. There we go. That's what I like to see. Right, I'm going to try and make this as interactive as possible and as fun as possible for everyone. So as Vanessa said, please can you just put the comments in, and we'll try and answer the questions as we go if possible. If not, then we'll get them at the end. But essentially, I wanted to just thank Contend for inviting me, and also for Vanessa. Vanessa is an old colleague of mine. We both used to work at Barclays. And as part of the conversation, Vanessa just mentioned about the pandemic. If the pandemic hadn't happened, then I wouldn't be sat here right now, because I decided to leave my job in Barclays last year. I was in Canary Wharf to start up Westways Financial. And one of the main reasons was to give financial education for free out to everyone, so that they can really help themselves and their lives, and so that I can actually make an impact. So that's one of the reasons that we started Westways Financial. So today we're going to talk about mortgages made easy. And there's going to be a 7-stage property dream conversation. We'll go through each stage of the properties, whether you've already got a property, whether you're looking to buy one, or whether you're looking to buy an additional property, a holiday home or a buy to let. It will be applicable to everybody. So I'll start now, and I'm just going to flick through essentially the agenda today. We're just going to cover off myself, why I'm an expert in the field, some initial questions, just go over some basic knowledge, and then we'll talk about the 7-stage of the property dream. So just a bit of background about me. So I'm a consultant at Westways Financial. I've been in the financial services industry for about 10 years now. Started out as a chartered accountant and worked at an accountancy firm for 3 years, and then moved to Barclays, where I met Vanessa in Canary Wharf. And I was a global cash and liquidity specialist, so helping big companies, the likes of Coca-Cola and Madison Square Gardens, big US companies, manage their money. And then recently I've become a mortgage consultant. So I wanted to try and help other people similar to myself in helping their property dreams. So what is a mortgage? A lot of people don't even know what a mortgage is. So I just thought I'd put it up there. And essentially, just in a few words, it is a legal agreement with a creditor or a lender or a bank, in which they will give you money in the fact that you're going to buy a property, and they will hold security against that property. So they're expecting you to pay that back because it's a loan, as you would. But what they will do is, if you stopped paying it back, they will sell your property. You will become homeless, unfortunately, but they will then recoup their money. And everyone is looking to get a property, or anyone who's looking to move away from the rental market into the property industry will typically need to have a mortgage. Not many people can afford 100, 200, 300, 400,000 in cash, unless you've been following all of Vanessa's investment tips for many years. If we're just starting out, we're not going to have that much money. So what is it, or who is it available to? It's going to come down to a number of different factors. So you've got whether you are resident in the country, what's your affordability, how big's your deposit when you are saving, how much have you got towards that property. Again, we mentioned about payment holidays and the effects on credit profile. So you'll have a credit score as an individual, how much that's going to affect your ability to get a mortgage, etc., etc., and also whether you're employed or self-employed. One thing I wanted to pull out actually was the residency and a visa status. There is a kind of a taboo subject about that, and also there's a few myths about it. So essentially, most lenders will give people a mortgage if they've been in the country for at least 3 years. And typically, if you've got indefinite leave to remain, then you're going to be open to getting a mortgage. And also, if you are on a tier 2 visa, there are also lenders now who are able to give you a mortgage of having mortgages, a number of different residency statuses that you can have with regards to that. And also, as Vanessa mentioned, there's a number of government schemes out there to help people get onto the property ladder. You've got the Help to Buy scheme. That one is finishing in March 2023, so you've only got about 18 months left on that one. There's also shared ownership, so for people who can't afford to buy the whole house, they can buy sections of the house. So you can essentially buy somewhere between 25% and 75% of the house, and then you would rent the other portion of the house. And then there's also the rent to buy scheme. So if you currently live in a council house, you have the ability to buy your council house off the council and you get a discounted rate. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk through now the 7 stages of your property dream. And like I mentioned, whether you've got a property already or whether you're looking to remortgage it, this is going to be because essentially, if you're looking to move house, you're going to have to start that saving process for a bigger house, typically, if you're starting a family or if you're moving location. And also, if you're looking to remortgage, the house values have gone up quite a lot. There is the ability to maybe reduce your mortgage or actually get some funds out of your property at the moment. So this is all going to be applicable. So what we're going to look at today is the 7 stages, and the first stage is the saving phase. So a bit like what Vanessa was mentioning, we want to make sure that we save and invest in the right way to grow our wealth for a time at which we do want to purchase a property. Whether you're moving from a rental now and you're looking to buy, whether you're just living with your parents or your family and you're looking to buy your first home, or whether you're in a current home and you're looking to get a bigger home, you're always going to need to save. And most people think we're going to save for a deposit, but there's actually a lot more that goes with it on top of that. And I've listed here down on the right hand side a number of different fees. So we've got stamp duty. We talked about that. There was a stamp duty window during the pandemic, which then forced a lot of people to reconsider. They thought, oh, let me take advantage of no stamp duty. Well, unfortunately, the majority of that is now closed on the 30th of June. So you will now have to pay stamp duty again, but that is a real big cost that you need to consider. There's also legal fees. When you have a legal agreement between yourselves and the lender, you're going to have an intermediary, which will be some form of conveyancing or solicitor. So there'll be some fees with regards to them mediating that clause. There's also success fees. That will typically be for a broker or a consultant to get you access to the right lenders for you. You could just go to your bank and say, I would like a mortgage. They will only be able to offer you that bank's mortgage rates. That might not be the best in the industry. As a broker, as a consultant, we have access to 75 different lenders. I bank personally with NatWest. I have never had a NatWest mortgage. I invest with Barclays, and I've had mortgages with Nationwide, Santander, and Halifax. It is really important to shop around. The more you shop around, the better deal you'll get. And that's what we try to do for all of our customers. So after the saving phase, it's really important to, once you've got to an available level that you're looking to move, or you're still looking to work out how much you can afford, there's a number of different factors that will affect your affordability score. So on the left-hand side, these are the 3 main factors. You've got your household income. So anybody in your house you're looking to purchase the property with, typically partners, you can add your income together and that will be your household income. That will affect how much you can borrow. Typically, and I'll mention it in a second, it's about 4.5 times your household income. And we do have tools on our website for free where you can use them. So I'll point you in the direction of that. Deposit size, the more deposit you can put down, the more a bank are willing to lend you. That means they're taking less risk, so they're able to lend you more money. And then with regards to credit score, as soon as you're living in the UK, you will be building up a credit score. There's a number of credit agencies out there, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, All of these will be taking data from your transactions, whether you're taking credit, whether you're taking credit cards, whether you're taking loans, whether you're putting money in a bank account. They will keep a credit score so that when it comes to the likes of getting a mortgage, the lenders can reach out to these, understand what your score is. Obviously, the better you are at giving back the credit, the better your score. So the more you actually take and the more you give back on time, the better your score. And then on the right-hand side, we've got a few other things. So we've got credit commitments. So whether you've already got hire purchase for a car, maybe a car finance, you've got credit cards or personal loans, that will also be considered when you're looking at your affordability. Also family, if you've got any dependents, if you've got children, obviously you're going to have costs that are associated with that. That will come under your affordability. And especially in this community, and I know a lot of people like giving and donating, whether that's giving to the church, whether that's also sending money back home, it's important to consider that if there is a regular payment going out of the bank account, the lender will probably ask questions and ask, what are these payments for and why do you do them? If they're voluntary and you're looking to get a higher affordable mortgage, they may ask you to stop them payments. I'd like to think that most of the time they don't, and they're obviously trying to incentivize people to do donations and voluntary payments, but sometimes they do because they want to make sure that you're going to pay them back. So after you've got your affordability, which is something that we would sit down to talk to you about, actually, just want to talk about some tools, actually. So here on the left-hand side, you've got your household income. You can actually scan the QR code using your phone. That will take you through to our website. We've got a free calculator on there, which you can plug in your income in your household, and it will essentially throw out the potential mortgage size that you could potentially get. So take that mortgage size, add your deposit to it, and that's roughly the size of the property you'll be looking at. And then also on the right hand side, inside scoop, it's really important to see what the lenders see about you. Everyone's asking me all the time, well, how do I find out about my credit score? Okay, we see Experian making TV adverts and saying, oh, I want to boost my credit score, etc., etc. Well, there is a report out there, and it's created by a company called Check My File, that has all of the scores in one report. Again, use the QR code. You can scan that. There is a free report on there. It's a free trial. Make sure you cancel it once you have your report, because it will charge you £15 per month. We don't want that. It is completely free. So scan that, sign up, and you'll get your report. If you want to talk through anything on your credit score, whether you want to talk through your income, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to speak about your affordability. So once you know how much you can afford and what type of property or size of property you're looking to go for, what we can do as a consultant is apply for an agreement in principle for you. And on the top right hand side, it essentially explains what it is. So it's a certificate from a mortgage broker that says we are willing to offer Mr. and Mrs. Jones £400,000 for a mortgage. Why is it needed? Well, that certificate will allow you to understand the size of house you can look for in your affordability, but also it allows you to provide that certificate to any estate agent when you're buying a property to give them comfort that you can afford that. They will typically ask you, do you have an agreement in principle? If you've already spoken to a consultant, then great, you should have that ready to go. If not, speak to one, then you'll be able to give that to the estate agent. It really does put you to the front of the queue if you've already got one. What do we do as Westways to get you one? So we do a brief fact find, a little bit of information about yourself, your address, your background, some date of birth, some of your aspirations, and we'll look at your affordability. What we'll do is we'll find the best lender for you out of the 75 lenders we have access to that will give you and your credit profile the best agreement in principle. That's essentially what we want to do. And does it cost anything from us? No, we want to give free education and we want to give free agreement in principle. We want to give that out so that we hope that you will come back to us and come back to us for the mortgage, because we want to make sure that we can get you on that property ladder. Some consultants do charge for that, but to be honest, if you can go to a consultant that does it for free, then definitely do so. Right, the next section after that is finding your home. And this literally is down to you. We can't help you find a home. That is for maybe an estate agent or essentially, as this person's doing here, online. You can go onto Zoopla, you can go onto Rightmove, you can find a home that's going to suit you. We don't want to find a home for you if you're not going to like it. So we'll leave that one to you. You can find your property, and when you've got a property and you've got your offer accepted, you come back to us, and then we'll take you through to the next stage, which is your full mortgage application. So at this point, we've already done an agreement in principle. We have a number of pieces of information about you already. The main bits for this is taking that information and just getting evidence. So here I've got documents, questions, and more evidence. We will have to send the lender documents, whether that is ID, proof of address, proof of income, pay slips, bank statements, credit profiles. All of these pieces of information, the lender is going to typically ask us as a consultant to prove you are who you are and you can afford to pay back the mortgage. Some lenders will ask for a lot of documentation, some will ask for less. So it's really important that we can sit down with you and see what's available at the time. And what we will do is we'll send all of that documentation. The underwriting team at the lender will review that. They'll come back to us with any questions. We'll sit down with you, go through any questions they may have. And again, if they want more evidence, we'll provide that. But essentially, there's a bit of back and forth with the lender and yourselves, with us intermediaries, to get you to the place where they're looking to value the property and then also get the contract ready for exchange. So the next one is about your conveyancing. And this is essentially the use of a solicitor or having someone who is going to be a legal intermediary. What they'll essentially do is they'll do legal searches, inquiries, and they'll set up all of the legal documentation. They'll do searches on the flood risk around your area. They'll talk about the local shops, the pubs, the schools, what in the area is going to help you as a buyer, as well as representing the lender. And they'll do a number of inquiries on the property to check that that is going to be security for them, that it is up to standard, it is worth what it is. And they will also write up the title deeds and land registry for the transaction. And again, what we can do at Westways is we have access to the UK-wide conveyancing portal. That allows us to understand who the best solicitor is for you and your needs, and also find the best price. And we also have feedback ratings from other consultants that have used these legal services, and there'll be a feedback rating on which ones have been the best. So not always the cheapest is not always the best. So it might be worth paying that extra bit more for a more quality solicitor if they're going to get the transaction done quickly. So lastly, the last section is mortgage offer, exchange and completion. So once the lender is happy with your affordability, they're happy with checking all of your documentation, the legals are already set up, what we will do is we'll get the mortgage offer sent out to you. That will be just after having a valuation instructed. So the lender will come to the house. Sometimes they'll do a desk valuation. They just want to check that the value is what we say it is during the application. Once you've got the mortgage offer, the next stage is to take the deposit for exchange. So we will typically ask for 10% deposit of the house property. So if the house is worth 300,000, then the solicitors will typically ask you for 30,000 in order for you to then go forward and exchange legally as the owner of that property. And then between the legal exchange and completion, so exchange is just going to be the signing of contracts, and then completion will be you physically getting the keys and being able to enter the property. They will typically ask for any of that surplus deposit. So if you are looking to put down 25% deposit for your house, you'll pay that 10% up front for the exchange, and then the other 15% you'll pay from exchange to completion. Sometimes you can exchange and complete simultaneously on the same day. But what we do typically see is there is about a 5 working day window between those two. And then once you've done your offer, you've done your exchange and you've done your completion, then you're officially a homeowner. So that's brilliant. So once you're sat down and enjoying the luxuries of your new home, thinking of how you're going to furnish it, it's also really important to consider, how do we protect your family? So you've now got this massive asset, and obviously you may have a family of 4, a mum, a dad, and a daughter and a son. and the mum is currently looking after the children and the father is out working, or vice versa. One of you is an income earner. What happens if that person isn't there? How are you going to be able to run the family and also pay back your mortgage? So it's really important to look at having life insurance for both you and your partner. Again, the critical illness cover is really important. What if you come down with a terminal illness, or you just have a really bad accident? You might have a stroke, you might have a heart attack. What happens when you're trying to recover from an illness and you can't work? Critical illness cover will be able to pay you a lump sum up front, and so you don't have to worry about paying back your mortgage or your financial bills and things like that. So it's really important to cover your family with critical illness. Income protection is very niche, and this is typically centered around self-employed. So if you own your own business or you're self-employed, you might be a laborer, you might be a physio. If you hurt your body or yourself, typically you're not able to work. This will help give you a monthly income to cover your bills and your mortgage. So there's a number of ways to protect your family. These are things that we talk about at Westways, and we do free insurance reviews for you. So if there's ways you want to protect your family, then reach out to us. One thing on the right hand side we do provide is a free will for every mortgage we do. I looked up at the statistics last week, and only I think 59% of the UK adults don't have a will. And it's really important because it's going to minimize taxes, a bit like Vanessa said. We want to minimize taxes if we can. We want to have executors to our will to reduce our costs. So allow somebody in your family to do the execution of your will if you were to pass away. It also allows you to talk about your children, who looks after your children, who looks after your pets if you're not there. There's a very important part of the will that we can cover as part of this. And if you wanted to reach out to us, then we're more than happy to speak to you about. So Westways Financial, actually, and talking about family, is a family business. You've got my father at the top, you've got my brother in the middle, and myself at the bottom. And we actually do have an office dog, Olive. We all play a part to play in this. Trevor has a 40 years background in private banking. Alex has previous background in estate agency and mortgage advisory, and myself in financial services. So as a team and as a family, we want to welcome you into our family, and we'll treat you as one of our own in order to protect you and your family and get you on your property journey. So last thing before we talk about Q&A is just want to highlight some of the promises we make to our customers. So on the left-hand side, whenever you do a mortgage with us, we do a free protection review. We get you a free will, and we also give you free solicitor guidance. We're all about free education. We want to give you this for free. And also, if you're not looking for a property, but you know people who are, on the right-hand side, we're looking to say thank you. For every referral on completion, we will be giving £50. And that is quite a significant amount of money, whether that is you want to just take your family out for a restaurant meal, or you just want to have a night in and get some food in. So more than happy to say thank you when it's deserved. So that is the property journey. We want to take some questions. On the right hand side, there's our contact details. We've got our website there for any free consultations. We've got a booking system on there. It would be great if you want to book in there. Drop us an email if you've got any questions, and we would really appreciate it if you'd follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We've got lots of freebies, lots of useful tools, and we look to help a lot of you guys moving forward. So at this point, I'm going to hand you back to Vanessa and ask for any questions.
Thank you so much, Carl. That was amazing. Really, 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 really good. I wish I had you when we were buying our house. But yeah, that was really, really good. Okay, so that's a lot of content that you guys have digested over the past hour and a bit. To me, I believe you're stepping in now. Do you want to run this part?
Yeah, sorry about that. Apologies, sorry about our cameras flipped over and everything, so we had to sort it all out. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, all right then, we just can't hear you. Please bear with me a moment. Awesome. Okay, we can. Thank you so much. That was so informative. That was a lot. It was a lot of information, but it was helpful information. I do hope you all were able to take so much from it. Questions have been started to be dropped. I believe that questions may have been sent to you as well. There are some questions that are going to be on our Padlet screen. If we could just share the screen, or do you want me to, or should I, or maybe I'll read it out so it's easier.
Do you want me to stop sharing my screen and you can share?
Yes, please. You can
Yeah.
take a picture of the information, everyone, so you can have it on your phones or however you want to, and we will share it at the end of the session as well.
Perfect.
People are already on the website. All right, sweet. Thank you very much. So some of the questions that came is, I'll start from the bottom up. It says, is it worth getting a credit card to improve credit? I don't think we spoke a lot about credit, but one of the questions was, is it worth getting a credit card to improve credit?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to take that. So I think with regards to credit card and credit scores, essentially what we're trying to do is prove to credit lenders that we're willing to pay money back. So if you can take credit there and you're willing to pay it back, then definitely do so. I definitely would recommend trying to show a credit footprint, because otherwise you only maximize your score by actually taking credit out. There's a lot of people who haven't had a mortgage, they've never had a credit card, they've never had a phone bill. So your score will only max out at around average. If you really want to go above average and improve that, then you need to start utilizing different credit offerings and vehicles. Alex, is there anything else to add to that?
I think the main thing, hello everybody, I'm Alex from West Wales Financial as well. Hello, I see people waving. So yeah, the thing about credit cards is the main thing is if you are going to take out a credit card, that you pay it back. That's the only thing you need to do. So if you're going to spend money on it, make sure you pay it back, because if you don't pay it back, that's going to have a detrimental effect on your credit. And that goes against what we're trying to achieve. So you know, spend some money on it. You know, shopping. Most of the time, I say do shopping on it, and then just pay it out of your account, or buy fuel on it. Use it for fuel to get wherever you're driving to. Just make sure you pay it back. That's the main thing, because that is definitely going to help boost up your credit score.
That's really helpful. It helps with staying responsible for your money. Thank you for that. Thank you. Okay, another question is on funds. This question was asked, where do you go to find tracker and index funds? I think this one's more, I think this is for Vanessa, I think, because you mentioned funds.
Yeah, so I did give you guys a list. I'm not sure if that actually answered the person's question. So I did give you a list on where you can go, but I mean, what else you can do? So I gave you a list as well of brokers that you can use. Please let me know. I mean, I'm happy to share those parts of the slide again. But okay, so for me, my own personal investment account, I use Hargreaves Lansdown. Yeah. So what they do is they do a number of things. They can make ready-made portfolios for you. So that could already include tracker and index funds as well as active funds as well. What they also have that I really like, and I think even if you are not an investor with them, you can actually view it. What I'll do is I'll drop the website in the chat for you, and just have a browse on the website, because they have a lot of educational pieces. They have what they call the wealth shortlist, and it kind of functions like the Premier League, right? So you've got a bunch of analysts that are working in the background, really smart, super smart people, and what they're doing is they're researching funds, they're looking at fund managers, they're looking at how well these funds have performed and whether they're set to perform well in the long term. So if that's something that you're interested in, you're not really sure where to start, maybe even the ones I've shared with you just want to do some more research, I recommend you do that anyway. Try Hargreaves Lansdown. I think they're very easy to use as well. I like them very much. You can also go on Vanguard as well. That's our family account as well. That's what we and my husband use as a family. Vanguard are really good. They have tailor-made indexes and portfolios that you can invest in, very low cost as well. But you know, they're doing well on the market because they're doing what it says on the tin. I think in the long term as well, you know, listen to the news. I know it's quite difficult, but I mean, technology is available. I mean, you can YouTube and can break down so many different things, read books, get financial advice. If you have no idea, get a robo-advisor. I mentioned that there are a number of companies that can invest on your behalf. Moneybox and Nutmeg are a good one. I remember when I first started out, I used Moneybox. You can invest your spare change and they would round up So if you bought a coffee from Starbucks and you spent £3.50, it will round it to the next pound. So 50p was going to go in a pot that was going to be rounded up and collected and invested in a fund that I selected based on my risk appetite. So I hope
that's very helpful. Thank you. And okay, so still on the notes of funds, and there's a question that says, what do you think about investing through banks and their index funds instead of doing it on a standalone one? What about doing it through the bank?
Yeah, that works well. I mean, Carl, you use Smart Investor. Why don't you?
Yeah, Barclays Smart Investor. Yeah. So I don't actually bank with Barclays, and funnily enough, I used to work there. But I just set up a Smart Investor account. You don't need a bank account for that, and then I just use it. I've got a stocks and shares ISA, as Vanessa mentioned before, and then I've also got an extra investment account as well. So I get to pick what funds I put my money in, but I can also ask them to do it for me. So that obviously costs a little bit more. I can just I just select myself and then do it that way.
Awesome, amazing. So I'm gonna go on to I'm gonna go on to wills, and I think this is for you, Wes. So it says, the first question is, do you do a will writing service that stands alone without the mortgage part?
Yes, so we've actually partnered up with a company called My Last Will, and they offer a completely virtual will writing service. So one of the foundations of Westways is we want to make sure we get rid of paper. We're trying to be environmentally friendly here. So we've partnered up with My Last Will. You essentially get your own will portal. You'll sit down with us, we'll go through how it works, we'll go through 50% of the will writing business with you, and then we'll hand it over. We know that wills are really personal, and they also involve family affairs that we think should be confidential. So at that point, we'll hand over anything you want to gift or donate down the line, then you fill that in yourself, and then you pay for everything on the online portal, and it's all paperless. So it's nice and easy.
Awesome, thank you. And another question about will was, is there a limit to the number of times you can edit your will?
No, so with My Last Will, what they do offer is you can either save it with them on a central virtual cloud and pay £15 a year for unlimited changes to your will, or you can print it off for free. And it's £30 for every time you want to change. So depending on your time of life, if you're older, you might change it a little bit more. If you're younger, you're typically only going to change it when a life event happens, maybe buying a house or having a child. So I would say print it off if you're younger, and maybe pay the subscription if you're older, because then it allows you that flexibility.
That's nice. Thank you. And what's the youngest age you can be to write a will?
To be honest, I believe it's just 18. We would typically say once you've got a asset of size, something larger than a car, which typically would be when you have a house, you would want to start writing will, unless you come into a large amount of inheritance or a pot of funds. Vanessa, is there anything with regards to some of those funds that you might talk about with your clients?
So we refer most of our clients to like the wealth planning team, because there's like a lot of tax stuff involved. There's like inheritance taxation and things like that, which gets really complicated, and probably not for today. But yeah, I think when you think of things like ISAs and things like that, if say, for instance, you die, you can add all of that stuff. You can put all of your investments onto your will. When you pass away, there's something called inheritance tax, and it can be very painful. Like, you know, you can be passing down money to your children, like your property or home. But if you don't set up your will correctly and set up your estates correctly, that money you want to leave behind can face this 45% tax bill. Wow. So it's important to really seek for tax advice, you know, 45%. Yeah, so it can really erode the value that your hard-earned money that you spent your entire life working towards. So a will is important, but you've got to think about that there's individual types of taxation for stuff. So for instance, like ISAs and things like that, when you die, if you have a spouse, you know, that goes automatically into their name as well. And so, but things you need to be careful with how you pass things on to your estate. I know it was quite a iffy-waffy answer, but there's a lot more to it. Yeah.
Just to add, I was just going to talk about costing, because I know people will probably wonder what the price of wills are. So if you went to a typical solicitor, like a local solicitor, they would typically charge you somewhere between £200 and £250. And that will essentially be sitting down, going through all the paperwork. The virtual My Last Will option that we do mirrored wills for £95, which is for you and your partner, or if you just want a single will, they're £50. Because everything's virtual, it really brings the cost down. So yeah, we've found that a lot of clients have really enjoyed just using the virtual system and find it a lot easier to use as well. Lovely,
thank you. And now I have some ISA questions. And this question says, what happens if you have a help to buy ISA and you haven't officially yet used it to deposit money, even though it's been open for a while, and now they're buying a property? Is it too late to use it towards the deposit, even though it's now locked in legalities with a conveyancer? If it's too late, what can she do with the account now? He or she, them, they.
Alex, do you want to take that?
I don't know, Vanessa, if that was something you wanted to. You look like you're just about to say something, so I don't want to.
I'm reading the question, but okay. So you've got a help to buy ISA. You haven't officially used it yet, so there's nothing in there. So I don't know. If you haven't used it yet, and you're going to buy a house soon, then I don't know if you will have access to the bonus yet. I don't think you have to, because if say for instance, I think help to buy ISAs, I think you can now transfer them over to lifetime ISAs at the moment, right? So because that's what's the active product at the moment. If you haven't used it yet, it's likely that your bonuses haven't kicked in, and you probably might need to rely on another source as a deposit.
I may have heard it maybe slightly differently. I wasn't sure. It sounds like you've instructed a solicitor to purchase your house, but you haven't either told them about this help to buy ISA. If they haven't taken a deposit, you could probably still use it as a deposit for that transaction. It would be a case of speaking to your solicitors and just letting them know that you have this ISA, and they'll be able to advise you on the best course of action on whether you're going to use it or not. So yeah, I would definitely advise reaching out to your solicitor and then taking it from there.
Thank you. I hope the question asker heard that and it helped them. Thank you. That was helpful. ISA. Is help to buy ISA actually good to buy a house? So if they're offering to help with a deposit of 7,000, for example.
Oh, that's for you.
I would definitely say, well, so the help to buy ISAs, you actually can't get anymore. You can't sign up to them. They're essentially incorporated in the lifetime ISA now. But the help to buy ISA was formed to help you buy a house. Help to buy, it's in the name. So yeah, definitely, it's definitely going to be useful for when it comes to that point, for sure.
Okay, lovely. The person expanded a bit on their question. The prior question, the one before that I just said. They said there's no money yet in the help to buy ISA, but they are currently buying a house.
Okay, so I believe, Vanessa, you had it in your presentation. You have to have had the lifetime ISA open for 12 months and been paying into it for you to then utilize it. So it depends how long you've had it open. If there isn't any money in there at the moment, then there's nothing to get the interest from. So yeah, again, speak to your solicitor. They'll be able to advise you. But if there's no money in the help to buy ISA, then you're probably not going to be able to get any benefit from that.
Okay. I don't know.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I think there's if I'm understanding the question right, it's that they have the ISA open, so they actually have an ISA. Can they put money in there right now? because they have the account, and then take money out at the end of the financial year, would it accumulate any interest based on how the Help to Buy?
Is this the Help to Buy one? So if it's a Help to
Yeah.
Buy
So
ISA,
they
it
actually
has to
had the
be,
Help to Buy before it locked down. They just didn't put any money in it yet.
yeah, so it has to be used to buy a house. Is that what they're going to do?
Yeah, they're going to use it to buy a house. So can they transfer whatever money they've saved into their Help to Buy ISA right now?
Yeah.
Then benefit from it at like the end of the financial year.
Yeah, so
sorry,
go on. I was just going to say, just remember that the maximum you're going to benefit from is 4,000. So the maximum you can put in is 4,000 for the Help to Buy ISA, and you're going to only get an extra 1,000, which is obviously a £3,000. But you might as well take advantage if that is the case. Alex, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say, with the Help to Buy ISA, there was slightly different rules and regulations around that. Again, you need to speak to a financial expert in regards to that. But the license changed compared to Help to Buy. When you had a Help to Buy ISA, you had to put a minimum amount in there when you opened the Help to Buy ISA, and it needed to be running, and then you needed to put a maximum every single month of £200 in order to gain £50 back for the bonus. So I think if you just dumped a lot of money into it, so you took money out of your savings and put it straight into the ISA, you wouldn't benefit from the £50 a month, because it has to be a gradual process, and has to be shown in the bank statement once it goes over to the solicitors that you're actually paying into the Help to Buy ISA, and then gaining the £50 every single time.
I think if it was me, I would advise this person. Well, what I would do is I would open a lifetime ISA, because it's now the current product, and I think there's a lot more fluidity with it. You can transfer any balances that are in a Help to Buy ISA into a lifetime ISA. If there's nothing in the Help to Buy ISA, you might as well just open a lifetime ISA, put the money in, and then just start your 12 months, and start have the money in for the tax year. Get your 25% and just keep going on from there. I think there was too many provisions required for a Help to Buy ISA, and I think that's why they simplified it with the lifetime ISA. It's a newer product and it's a lot more accessible to customers. So that's my view.
Yeah, apologies. As NTM has put in the comments, it's maximum £200 per month. The 4,000 limit is for the lifetime ISA, which is what Vanessa talked about before.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So the next question is, as a couple who are first-time buyers, do you advise buying a house or renting to begin with?
So, I mean, that's a hard question to answer, because we don't know your specific circumstances. I mean, ideally, it comes down to personal preference, really. What's your situation? Where are you going to be? Where you are looking to rent? Are you going to be working in that area, or is that going to be a long-term thing? Is it a short-term thing? I mean, ultimately, buying a property is always going to outweigh renting, because the interest rates are ridiculously low at the moment. Halifax, for example, have just brought out the lowest rate we've seen in a very, very long time, 0.3%. 0.83%, sorry, which is crazy low. So the interest rates are really, really low. So you want to take advantage of that whilst you can, and it's always going to be cheaper to have a mortgage. Obviously, depending on where you're looking to rent. If you're looking in central London, then it's probably cheaper to rent. But if you're looking outside of that area, then you're probably looking at it's better to buy a property. But it all comes down to personal circumstances, how much deposit you have, and whether you can afford to look at doing that.
All right, that is helpful. Thank you. I hope it helped. And there's another question here that says, why is it more difficult to get a mortgage as self-employed, even though you are earning more than when you were an employee?
I saw that. I was the NTM that had posted that question. The reason behind it is basically the self-employed income is is assessed on your net income rather than your gross income, as it would be if you were employed. So when you're self-employed, you have to take off your expenses and all your costs, and other bits like tax, and then that's the figure that we use, or the lenders use, to work out your affordability. When you're self-employed, most people want to try and reduce their tax bill as much as possible, so they tend to put a lot more expenses in, and therefore their net profit is a lot smaller than that of their gross profit. So it's the net profit that the lenders look at, rather than the gross profit, which is why it's usually more difficult for a self-employed person to do that. But there are definitely means and ways around it, and there's lots of other lenders that will help. Like, we can use the most recent income rather than an average. Most lenders use an average, but we could use the most recent if it's a really good year, or if it's a limited company, then we can use salary plus your dividends, or salary plus your net profit. So there's lots of ways to look at it. Obviously, that's something we would go through with you at Westways Financial when you're looking to get a mortgage, but there's lots of different reasons. But typically the reason it's harder is because it's the net profit rather than the gross income.
Thank you. I hope that helped. So another question is, what isn't a good deposit size to have when buying a house? Is there like a good starting amount?
5%. That's the lowest you can put in. Your interest rate is going to be higher if you put in a 5% deposit, because there's more risk to the lender or to the bank. But if you want to benefit from a really low interest, then anything from 75%, from 25% to plus, basically that's when you get into the really low interest rates. So 25% plus, you get really low interest rates, but they're still really low at the moment. So don't be put off if you have a 5% deposit. Don't think, oh, we'll have to save for another year or 2 years, because you could still potentially get your dream home just with a 5% deposit.
Yeah, just to add to that as well, with the Help to Buy scheme, which is government backed, and I personally use this. When I bought my property 6 years ago, I put down a 10% deposit. The government put down 20% interest free for 5 years. So essentially, even though I put 10% down, I've got 20% from the government. So that's at 30%. And that allowed me to access that smaller interest rates. And then after the 5 years, I just paid the government back when I remortgaged. I didn't actually have to pay them any cash whatsoever, because the house price had actually gone up by that amount. So I paid that off, and then I own the rest of the house. So it worked out quite well. There's definitely a Help to Buy scheme kind of benefits for using it. And that will, like Alex mentioned, help you get into the lower interest rates.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, smart, boss move. So just before we finish up, I just want to ask if anybody has any other questions for the West, for Vanessa, financial questions in general. Pay your... Oh. Sorry about that.
I think, did you ask the question? Could you, oh, actually, I just seen that.
Dio has one.
Dio, yes, please. Do you want to drop it? Drop your question? Or you can unmute yourself. Well, I guess maybe you're typing.
While we're waiting for the question, I'm happy to just give a brief case study of a client that I helped recently. So there was a client who actually had a 10-year fixed mortgage, and they still had 4 years left to run, and they were paying around 3% interest. And like Alex said, there's some really, really good deals out there at the moment. And we managed to help save £14,000. So even though they had 4 years left to run, and they had to pay a penalty fee of £10,000, we were able to save them on the new deals 24,000. So once you take that off, we managed to save them 14,000. So as Vanessa mentioned before, it's really important to maybe re-look at what current mortgage you have. Even if you're fixed, it makes sense to reach out to us. We'll sit down with you, work out whether it's actually beneficial to do so. It might not be, but it might be, and it might save you some money. So this particular client managed to save £14,000. So yeah, there's definitely opportunities out there for people at the moment.
Amazing. Thank you. That is big.
So
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry, Dio. Yes.
yeah, so I just wanted to ask quickly. So let's say I've saved in my ISAs for years, and probably by the grace of God, I don't have that amount, but let's say I've got £100,000 in my ISAs across, like, let's say 6 years. Can I also convert that into like a help to buy, a lifetime ISA? Because I know you can transfer them across, but the main question is, if I do convert them, will I still be able to get like the 25% government input on the lifetime ISA? So I don't know if I made myself clear.
Vanessa, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I think the 25%, so you remember you got every tax year, you get 4K. So if you don't put anything in your lifetime ISA for a particular tax year, it doesn't roll on. So the day you decide that you want to open a lifetime ISA and put money in, the max you can put in is 4K for that tax year. And then you wait for the next tax year, and then you put another 4K in, and you will get that 25% bonus year after year. So you can't accumulate your allowances over the year. If you want to start now, then you open one today, and then you will get your 25% as of today until the next tax year. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does make sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Vanessa, if you have a help to buy and it has a certain amount in it, and you want to convert it to a lifetime ISA, does that take away the
Benefits.
the boundary of the 4,000 taxes? So I already have a help to buy and I want to convert it to a lifetime
Okay, and it's an excess of
of 4,000.
Of the 4,000. I'm actually not sure, because I need to convert it, because the two work a little bit different to each other. So I'll speak to you offline on that one.
Yeah.
Or Carl or Alex, jump in if you'd like.
No. I was going to say, yeah, it's probably best to sit down and talk about that specific situation. I think because of how the help to buy ISA works is different to the lifetime ISA. You'll just need to do the maths behind it, but that'll probably be something to do on the side.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So there's a couple of questions here, but I think some of them, so Gina's just asked about, when you have a LISA, can you just dump 4K in there and they're just before the end of the financial year, or do you have to have a monthly direct debit in order to get the bonus? I believe you said that you have to have the 200 monthly payment. Is that right? Oh, that's Help to Buy. Okay.
That's the old scheme, yeah.
Okay.
Vanessa?
So yeah, no, you can do that. I know a couple of people have done that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just how it works. Yeah.
Wow, smart. Okay. I think your dad, Trevor West.
Yeah, there he is.
In regards to the financial health check, as highlighted by Vanessa, it's also worth reviewing your household bills, for example, insurance, utility, etc., as you can usually save money through a comparison site. Just save £70 on annual household insurance. Oh, that is really good. Thank you, Mr. Trevor.
Go on, the dad.
Go on, Dad.
I like it.
But honestly, that was back to my point earlier. You really need to shop around. Don't ever just settle if somebody you currently pay for a service comes to you and says, "Oh, we've got a great deal. Here's an extra 10% discount." Never just take that. Always look around and see. Someone else might be giving 20%. Someone might be giving 50%. So it's really important to shop.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. Lady T asks. Okay, NTM, I'll continue in a moment. Oh, NTM wants to unmute herself and ask. I'll quickly ask this written one and then I'll go on to the unmuting. So Lady T asks, what's a good salary to be earning to help to start to buy a house?
So that is very much going to be specific to where they're looking to buy. So for example, if they're looking to buy a house up in Liverpool, I know someone who's just bought a 1-bedroom apartment for 40,000. But if you buy a 1-bed apartment in Chelsea, you're looking close to $500,000. So that's probably one of the main things, location. And then also how much you want to, or how much deposit you've got. So if you've got an amount of inheritance, maybe you've got, or some savings, you won't need as high an income to get the mortgage. There's a number of different factors, like I mentioned before, that go into your affordability. So if that person wants to reach out to us, we're more than happy to sit down and go about what they currently earn and what that affordability looks like. And if they're looking to potentially change job, and see what the horizon looks like, we can do that for them as well.
Okay. Well, that option is there for you, Lady T. I think that's who asked. All right. So sorry, NTM. Would you like to go if you're still here? And then I'll ask one question after that.
Oh, I do apologize for the background noise. I'm literally walking in the road with my kids. But I'm not quite sure who to ask the question to, because it's more of a personal faith-based question. So I'm not sure, Carl, if you're a faith-based person or not. But I assure you, I'm not trying to put your company out of business. But I've been recently came across information about how Muslims believe in not paying interest. So they formed an organization about how they can help each other within their faith-based community to get houses without going to the banks, so that they pay cash to avoid interest because it's against their faith. So one thing that I know about my faith as a Christian is we believe that we are lenders, not borrowers. So in regards to getting mortgages and buying houses, most people say it's cheaper to get a mortgage than to buy cash. But then, you know, in regards to, for example, this conference is about rediscovering the kingdom of God, which I'm part of, which talks about not being a borrower. So I'm thinking, how does that work? That's what I'm saying. I don't know who to ask the question to. I'm thinking, as a faith-based person, how does mortgage work? And do you get my question? Like,
Yeah,
I'm
I do.
trying to be a kingdom-based person, but I also want to buy my house. You know, it's cheaper to get a mortgage than to buy cash, apparently. So how do I handle that?
Yeah, no, completely understand. And yeah, we come from a Christian background as well. So it is something that is important. And also through the mortgage advisory journey, we think about other religions. And like you said about the Muslim religion, they actually have specific Sharia mortgages, which are set up specifically for them to not pay interest. When you dig deep into the technical aspects of it, it is essentially paying interest, but the way they do it, they aren't. So they're able to keep faith in line with that. With regards to how you would see it as a Christian, I think, yes, there is the faith side of things, but also there is the practicalities of life. And it's really important that you don't want to detriment yourself. And I think it's important to consider that it's really, when there's an opportunity there, you need to consider as a balanced person that the decision needs to be right for you and your family. So it's very important, obviously, when you're looking at faith, to go down that journey and down that pathway. But sometimes it's important to ask your community, right, other opinions. Like, for instance, Vanessa, I'll hand it over to you in a second to give your point. I think it's really important to understand that, yes, unfortunately, everybody sins, and that is part of the way we live. But we try and be as pure as possible and try to stick to the rules of the faith. But there are practicalities in life that are important to understand the balance of decision making for you and your family. Vanessa, is there any kind of thought on that?
I mean, that's a really good question, sis.
It's hard, isn't it? It's a tough one.
No, it's a good question. I understand it, because there are several things that pull on our faith, and it's true. God has called us to be lenders, not borrowers. He's also called us to be stewards of wealth. But it's funny, he's placed us in, I mean, this is the domain that we dwell in. This is the jurisdiction that we live in. Carl, you mentioned something on the Sharia mortgage. Yes, technically they're not paying interest, but just based on the mechanics of money and how lending functions in general, like general principles of money, they still pay interest, but it's within the community, right? It's not going to like a third party institution, if that makes sense. Do you get what I'm saying, right? So I'm sorry, what's your name, sister? I think that I understand what you're saying. I believe that money has laws, money functions and has principles and practicalities. If you want to get a mortgage, I believe that you are empowered to build your wealth using the tools that I've explained today and using the tools that are available to us. The same way that you don't wish to pay interest, you're growing your wealth through interest. Do you get what I'm saying? So interest can work in our favor and it can also work against us. I mean, I believe that the power of compounding is amazing, and paying interest is what helps to grow our wealth. Grow your wealth so that you can raise a cash deposit, and so that you can reduce your interest rates payments. You pay more so that you don't have to lend more. I've seen many examples of family members, close family members, who have taken out mortgages and worked really hard, so much so that their mortgage repayments are ridiculous. The reason why we have mortgages and stuff is so, it can prove our credit worthiness. Mortgage is actually a good way to do that. If we don't have a mortgage, if we don't have extensions of credit, things that do require us to pay interest, it's going to be very hard to get by in the economy if you just walk around with a bag of cash. And that's not practical in this system, to walk around with a bag of cash everywhere. You've got to use the systems that we have, bank accounts and stuff. I'm talking about investing. You need to be able to put money in an account that, to put your money away. So I would say work hard, build your wealth. God has given you the ability to get wealth, get a low interest rate mortgage, pay off, so that you can do it again. And Rev Wani, please come and step on me if I've missed out some stuff.
One thing I would say is, we as mortgage consultants, our main aim is to help you to pay off your mortgage as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So the quicker we can help you pay it off, the quicker you feel that you're able to kind of fulfill the goals that you're trying to achieve. So it's really important to structure it practically, but also very important to try and keep faith in everything you're trying to do as well.
I'd like to add, I hope you can hear me.
Yep.
I said Exodus chapter 22, verse 25, it says, if you lend money to any of my people, that's God speaking. If you lend money to any of my people who are in need, do not charge interest as a money lender would. If you take your neighbor's cloak as security for a loan, you must return it before sunset and all that. So it's the borrowing of money. God knows that people will be in need. So if it is a need, it's not a sin to borrow. However, obviously the way you steward that, the way we steward our finances will show us whether or not we are. So the people that are sitting at the banks charging us interest, us borrowing, it's not a sin to do that. But like Vanessa said, that was a joke by the way. But like Vanessa said, it's how we steward whether we're going to, put ourselves in a position where we don't have to borrow that much, and even after we borrow, make sure that we are faithful in paying that back. But I don't believe you borrowing to meet a need. God made provision for that. It is not his necessary ultimate will for us. Basically, like, it's obviously it's better to own your stuff outright if you can. But if there is a need and you need to borrow, just be wise in borrowing who you borrow from, and in putting, paying it back. one of my favorite scriptures, Romans chapter 13, owe no man nothing. It's like a mantra for me. So I actively work to pay off my loans, but I don't just take frivolous loans either. I didn't just take a loan to go on holiday, except if I'm trying to build my credit so I have the money and I use it to, does that make sense? It's just the wisdom and application that I think matters. Hope that helps.
Love that.
Thank you.
Hit the nail on the head.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so time, we have really gone over time. But there's one more question that one person has really asked for a while. So I'm just going to ask this question and ask if it could be answered quickly, if that's possible, because we're almost 30 minutes over time, and our next session is at 7. So a question came and it says, would you advise putting a hold on getting a mortgage during this climate, especially because lenders are being more stringent, difficult with lending money to one's salary income?
So I think that was to do with stringent. So I'd say since the closing of the stamp duty window, that's definitely going to have a big impact. House prices should come down slightly. I wouldn't ever hold off on getting a mortgage at the moment because they're the lowest interest rates you're ever going to get. So if you can access a mortgage, then definitely do so. You want to pick your property carefully because you don't want to overpay based on the market. So make sure you do your research, speak to the right estate agents, speak to the right mortgage consultants to get you the right deal. But this is the best time, I think, in probably this century to get a mortgage. So it's probably, yeah, get on the property ladder as soon as you can and go from there.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I hope that answered the question. I know some people have a couple more questions. I would advise contacting both Vanessa and the Wests, with an S at the end, plural, because they're a company. But you know what? I just have to ask this. It's just, I think it's a simple one. If you can answer simply, if it's not a simple one, then let me know. But they just said, this person just said, what would you say is a low interest? Is it below 1%? Yes or no, I guess. That's a simple question.
I would say, is it lower than you're currently paying? Yes or no is the answer. So a low interest is relative. It's low versus the 1990s when they're paying 17 to 12%. But yeah, I would say 1% would be reasonably low in the market at the moment. But there are lower, like Alex said, with Halifax.
0.83.
There you go. Look at that. On it.
Listen.
You're going to go on the website tonight, aren't you, and just double check.
Potentially, I'd love to buy a house real soon. But yeah, thank you. This has been amazing. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Wes. Please can we have a round of applause for them in the comment section? They have given us so much information. Oh, they're clapping for themselves. Where are your claps for them?
I'm clapping for Vanessa.
Oh,
Yeah.
and Vanessa's clapping for you.
Oh.
I'm clapping for everyone. Round of
Yeah.
applause. This was amazing. Thank you so much. Here are all the claps. It's amazing. You are all absolutely wonderful. A well of wisdom. Honestly, the finance talk, it sounds like a whole new world. I was just like, where do I fit in here? I don't understand anything you're saying. Gonna have to go to the Google dictionary because I even said what string it and you said strig it. What I don't know what
Stringent.
stringent, yeah. So I'm an English teacher as well. Oh, but hold on. But thank you. Thank you. I learned something new. That was wonderful. Flirting in the comments. That Vanessa lady knows her stuff. I think he wants your number, Han. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything. It's been amazing having you here. I hope you have all been blessed. Thank you everyone for tuning into this session. Our next session is this evening at 7 p.m. and it will be on YouTube and Facebook. Tell a friend. West Brothers, we'd love to see you there. And Dad Trevor. Hi, Dad Trevor. It's so nice to have you as well. We'd love to see you all there. Come and gain, come and learn. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna behold the King. And I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you are too. Have a wonderful day. Have a lovely dinner. See you at 7 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Do you need us to leave as well?
Bye, everyone. See you at 7.